saying welcome to my broadcast. It is Sunday morning here in Brisbane. It's a sunny day, bit of wind blowing. It's about 26, 27 degrees Celsius. And today I am sporting a bit of a head cold, so please excuse my raspy voice. I do have the tissues on hand, and hopefully it'll be okay. I decided to do a broadcast this morning because I've actually been in the middle of doing a few things, and one of the things that I've been doing, and I may have mentioned this in previous broadcasts, is that I think it's important, because I don't share my liveries and because I compete in a lot of car shows, I also want to make sure that whoever is in the car show and is judging knows that it is my livery. So when I go into a car show, probably once every 10 minutes, I have a standard message in the message text chat section that I pump up onto the screen, and it basically says all of my liveries are my own. You won't find them on any other car. See more at Iflowboy at YouTube. And what I realised was that for a lot of my early designs, and I'm up to design number 163 now, I believe, I didn't put Iflowboy on there, and so what I've been doing this morning is going through some of the cars and doing that, and I thought it's a good opportunity to do two things. The first is to show you some of the cars that you may not have seen before, because I've done them quite a while, and I know most of my broadcasts have been about car liveries that I have been doing. And I did say on a previous broadcast that I would go through all my cars. There is a lot to go through, but I said would. So this Ferrari is a 458 Group 3 race car. I went a bit berserk. This was the time when Erlingo, and if you don't know Erlingo, if you go to the Discover section, go into car liveries, look at decals, and type in, I think it's ERLINGO, and do a search on his work. What he does best is the gold embossed liveries, and you can see that probably 80% of the livery, or decals I should say, on this car are those gold embossed. So I decided I'd do a black and gold thing with this particular car, and went searching in the Discover section for decals, came across Erlingo, and bang, I didn't download all of them or save them all to my library, I should say, but I wish I had, because now it's harder to find them, but a lot of them are in the popular section, so you might be able to find them there. I can't remember what his actual address is. I think he's got an Instagram account. You might be able to reach out to him on there. I can't remember exactly, but anyway, I do want to give a shout out to him and say thank you very much for all of those beautiful decals that you can see there. They're all the gold ones, apart from Star Wars, which are brand, and maybe that Shell logo. I'm not 100% sure if that's his work or not. If it is, then all credit to him as well. But pretty much everything else on there is his work. Anyway, so what you can see on this car, if I go into preview, that way I can control what the camera's doing. You can see there's a lot of liveries, obviously a lot of black ones. They're not his work, but excuse me. But that Spider's his on the roof. The little decals, no, they're black, so they're not his. But pretty much everything else is. Bacardi, Brembo. Yeah, but what I did today, and obviously real estate is at a premium on this particular car because of all the decals, is I had to improvise a bit with the Iflowboy at YouTube. I only just finished that 2 minutes before I turned on the broadcast, because it occurred to me after doing 3 or 4 of them that it was a good opportunity to show you. So, I've done this one. It's been saved. I don't need to go through that process again. What I now need to do is continue looking for cars where I have done the livery but haven't put on Iflowboy. So I've just got to have a bit of a look through some of the cars, because some of them I can't remember whether I have or not. If I know that I've done the car in the last 4 to 8 weeks, I know there's a safe bet that I have done it. For those of you who recognise this car or think they've seen it before, this is actually a V8 supercar from the Australian V8 supercar series. It was driven last year in the last round by a driver called Craig Lowndes. You can see his name there on the bonnet. Lowndes. and CL, Craig Lowndes, probably the most successful touring car driver Australia has had in terms of his results. I know people say, oh no, but somebody's done this more or somebody's done that more. If you actually have a look at his record, it is absolutely phenomenal. I know that one of his records, which has stood for something like 13 or 14 years, was only broken 2 weekends ago by a guy called Scott McLaughlin in a Ford Mustang. And if you've watched my previous broadcasts, you'll have heard my opinion on the fact that V8 Supercars has allowed a two-door coupe to compete in a series that was always designed with a tag operation blueprint for sedans, but the organisation yielded to Ford and allowed them to bring in a two-door car. I think it's only fair that Holden, or General Motors I should call them, are allowed to do the same, and they might introduce the Camaro. Then it would be a fair fight, because you'd both have the same coupe roof shape like that, which is obviously much more efficient aerodynamically. I've done the livery on this car, but it's actually a Commodore, what's called a Holden Commodore, which is no longer built in Australia. But last year they did this particular livery. I've got the original livery, which is a silver, but they did this livery in a gold. The reason that I chose the BMW for these cars, and I've done 3 V8 supercars now, all Craig Lowndes cars, by the way, because he's my favourite driver. Shout out to Craig. Craig doesn't know this, but he actually had a good yak with my father one day on the Pacific Highway after the road was blocked from a car accident. So if this ever makes its way to him, there's my connection with you, CL. I've seen you, but I've never met you. One day I hope I will. Anyway, the reason I picked the M4 is that the front of the car and the fact that it's got the rear spoiler, and to a certain degree the overall shape of it, is probably most like a V8 supercar. There's no other vehicles in here. I know I've seen a few people do the Mazda Atenza in the V8 supercar livery for the sedan, and it looks okay, but I think this car, particularly at the front, is very much like the Holden Commodores, the profile, the way the guards flare out. So I chose this car to do it, and the fact that it's got a very similar looking rear spoiler. So anyway, what I really came in here to do was to check that, and that is on there, so I can now go out. I don't need to save it because I haven't modified it. I hope that was enough of a view for you. I'll now go and check the other ones, and probably the easiest way to do that is to go to BMW. And there's the second one, which I'm hopeful that I've also done. Now you see, this one was the first one I did, and you'll notice that it's actually the E92 M3, and that was because I saw the car and went, yep, okay, it looks like it, and then only afterwards did I realise that the M4 Group 4 Coupe is even more like it. So this is Craig's standard livery. You can see it's quite a bit different in the silver, and excuse me, I noticed on the Discover section the other day there is now an Autobahn decal in there. I wish I'd had it, because it took me a little while to do that one, and there you go. Straight away I can see that I have not put a number plate on it, and I have not put my name on it. So let's do that right now. This won't take too long. I'm usually fairly proficient at this, he says as he goes the wrong way. It probably takes me longer to... what colour am I going to do it in? I might have to go red, I think. What colours have I got to choose from? Yes, I do have a red. Good. Alright. Because of the black setting there that I've done, which is again just to follow the actual V8 supercar livery, will I even move that, or just leave it there? I probably will need to move it. So I'm going to adjust here. Sorry, Mr. Red Bull, you're going to have to live with me here. Because by the time I write Iflowboy and then put the YouTube logo on, in fairness to YouTube, I like to try and keep it nice and clear and as per their published decal. Excuse me. So yeah, so obviously there's a trick to this. and when you've done it a few times, you kind of know the routine, and you get good at doing your decals on the run. I'm just trying to line it up without zooming in if I can help it, because that takes time to get the zoom right. Yeah, looks pretty good. That'll do. I probably could get a bit closer with the spacing, but let's just see how it pans out. What else can I tell you about this car? The thing about Craig in terms of his driving is this. The guy can drive anything. Pretty much anything he's competed in. He has an extremely high finishing rate. That's the first thing, right? So what that tells you is about the guy's consistency, about his mental capacity to keep his focus on the race. And when he finishes, he usually finishes very high up. It's very rare for him to finish outside of the top 5 in any event he goes in. He just jumped back. He retired last year, by the way. I should have mentioned that, shouldn't I? Jumped back in just last weekend for the Bathurst 1000, and those of you who know that race know it's at Mount Panorama, which is a circuit in this game, and a much loved circuit in the game. I'm just fixing the F and moving it a bit because it's a bit out of whack as I'm getting closer, and then I'll move the L too. And he hadn't really driven the car. He may have done some test mileage, but this was the first event this year. Normally they have they have one race beforehand. They call it the Endurance Cup, and it usually included a race down in Melbourne in Victoria, which is where the Australian Formula 1 Grand Prix is held. But this is at a track called Sandown. It's a very traditional race, but this year, for whatever reason, they didn't have it, so he didn't get the opportunity to have a warm-up practice, but he jumped in the car and straight away he was on the pace, pretty much pumping out the same times as Jamie Whincup, his teammate, who is still competing in the main season or championship. And over the weekend, basically piloted the thing perfectly, brought it in every time without a scratch on it, advanced the car up the field each time he got in the car, and actually had them sitting in the lead when he handed over to Jamie Whincup for his final stint. Unfortunately, bad call by Roland, the team owner. I still feel that if Roland had let them put the tyres on, and I'm pretty sure the clock will show you that there was sufficient time for them to change tyres while they were doing the splash and dash for fuel with 11 laps to go under safety car, I think the car would have had the pace to take second and then first. Even though second was its teammate, it was driving to conserve fuel, as was the lead car. So I think they could have been okay. They could have got past. They could have sat in front with the safety car, and they could have won. I don't know. Maybe it's the Whincup factor. Jamie tends to have no luck at Bathurst, even though he's a fantastic driver. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of respect for him too. But again, somehow defeat was snatched from the claws of victory. Anyway, that's the way it is. Yeah, so I'm just putting this decal in, and then we'll move on to the next car. The other thing I might talk about is a situation that happened last night. I was in a car show, and the car show grew. I think when it started there was only about 5 or 6 cars, but it quickly expanded, as it usually does. When people see a room and there's 5 or 6 cars in there, they're more keen to jump into a car show. Anyway, and it was the usual thing. A whole stack of people rocking up with copied liveries. Now, you all know my thoughts on this, and if you've just joined the broadcast, I'll quickly share it with you. A car show in the game is about sharing liveries. Now, it's about sharing the liveries like this one that somebody creates. I know people go onto the game, they create a livery, and then they share it in the discovery section. And I would love anybody out there that is a livery creator that has shared their livery in the Discover section or the library to please contact me and let me know if they like the fact that people in this game download their liveries, put them on their own cars, and then turn up to car shows and try to take credit for the livery design that wasn't theirs. I'm pretty confident anybody out there that's done their own liveries and has shared them, and again, no problem with people that design their liveries and want to share them. I don't. I will take photos and I'll publish them. The Scapes photos, I'll publish them of my cars so people can see them, but I don't share them. I shared 3 initially when I started because I didn't understand the whole thing about sharing, but as soon as I realised that, oh, if I share it, that means somebody else can download it and use it, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And I've spoken a lot about this in previous broadcasts, so I'm not going to go on about it now. What I am going to talk about is the fact that I then had 2 people last night in particular who took exception to the fact that I firstly asked how many liveries are self-made here, and I didn't get a lot of response. And so I then made a comment, and that was, as I've said before, I don't understand why people come into a car show putting a livery up against other people who have made their own liveries and then trying to take credit for work they never did, because that's what you do in a car show. For those of you who don't know what a car show is, you basically design your livery, you then go into a room just like you would if you were going into a race on a track, and instead of racing you basically go and park your car. It happens at the Tokyo East Inner Loop is the track, excuse me, or Tokyo East Inner Loop I think it's called, and there's a double apex U-turn. It's, you know, both corners are 90 degrees, so it's like a square, I guess, if you can imagine it. And there's a big area there for you to line up, you know, cars, at least 16 of them. So that's where most of the car shows happen. And what you do is somebody will pick a category, you'll pick a car out of that category, you'll park it there, and somebody will look at all the cars, the judge, and basically decide the third best, the second best, and the first best. And whoever has the first car, or the best car, then gets to pick the next category, and they judge the next round. And that's how the car show works. It just goes through that cycle. So I then asked these people, why do they come to these car shows, put a car that's not theirs into a car show, and then if they are awarded a prize, accept it and say thank you very much as if it was their work? And I had 2 particular gentlemen who, frankly, had the intelligence of a sap tree, take exception to my comments and then proceeding to insult me, tell me I was a sore loser, etc., etc. Neither of them could mount any intelligent argument beyond the fact to say, oh, the people that did these liveries shared them on the game so people could take them and put them in car shows. And I totally disagree. They have no evidence of that, and I can guarantee every single person that's created a livery, if you told them, hey, see this person over here, they copied your livery onto their car, went into a car show, and then basically claimed the credit for the design when they were awarded first, second, or third prize. And these guys were trying to argue that they weren't not telling everyone it was their livery, and that they weren't trying to take the credit for it. To which I said, well, as soon as you enter the competition, you are effectively trying to take credit for the livery, because otherwise, why are you in the car show? Why don't you just go off and drive around on a track somewhere else, and people can look at the livery and they can say, well, that's a really nice design, did you do it? And you can say, no, it wasn't me. But as soon as you enter into the car show, you are basically saying, look at my work, admire my work. So, and they just continued to basically bag me. One of them had this session with having sex with my mother. No, my mother, she would never do such a thing. She has taste, but you know, it was just ridiculous. And then to make it worse, a couple of other people came in. One was from the same country as one of them, and instead of that person actually understanding the argument, because that person was the same countryman as the other person, this person proceeded to bag me. I have no doubt that was because that person also used downloaded liveries. And you know, my argument to these guys was pretty simple. Until you have actually done your own liveries and spent the time making it, you won't understand how a person that creates and enters their own liveries feels when somebody jumps into a room with a downloaded livery and tries to take credit for it. Anyway, these two guys were just unbelievable. Steamy something was one of the guy's name, and Pawal, Pwal, was another guy's name. So if you happen to see them anywhere on the game, or if you happen to see them in a car show, please feel free to let them know what you think about people that basically commit fraud and deception by entering cars that aren't theirs without stating that it's not their car. If they walked into a round and said, "This is not mine, this is a download," no problem. No problem. Then the judge would know, oh, hang on, should I award this person for this livery because it's not theirs? And my answer is yes, you should not award them. Why do they deserve anything? It's a car show. It's not a, hey, download someone else's livery and turn up at a car show. It's a car show. It's all about people who create their own liveries. So, okay, so I just need to now add the YouTube logo, which is in my library collection, or collection as it's called, and it's just near the top, so it doesn't take me long to find it. Shrink it a bit. Might even change the colour on it, because that might make it really thin and then long, I think. I'm going to have to change the U colour to a yellow, so I think I'm going to have to go for yellow. Probably work out well, actually, given the Red Bull stuff there. It doesn't look so good, does it? Yeah. Right, another colour. Sorry guys, it just all black and green. Green works, doesn't it? Haven't done a green one before, but anyway, so that's that done. Yeah, okay. So we'll move on to the next one. First has to say, the interesting thing I found is because I've now got 163 liveries, the time it now takes for the game to, because it's actually uploading it to the cloud right now. Oh, well, it will in a second when I hit the yes button. Here it goes. So it's going to upload this to wherever the Sony PlayStation Network servers are, or file storage, SAN or NAS, whatever they run. I'm guessing SAN, but who knows. Is how long it takes. This used to happen very quickly. As I keep talking, you'll see how long it's actually taking to upload this file. And it's not like it's a brand new file. The file was already there. I've just added something to it. So you would think that it would just be sending an updated image, but maybe they don't have those sorts of smarts in the game. Maybe they should look at some type of WAN acceleration tool that will do that. There are a couple of cloud-based companies that will do that via something like a Riverbed or Cisco WAN acceleration, just to name two. There's others out there, but anyway. So you can see it takes quite a while. I think that was about a minute. Excuse me. It's my head cold. I might, in the absence of boring you to death, I might not worry about doing the number plate on this car. I don't know what I would put on there, something like Lounsey or something like that. But I'd much rather jump out of here and jump into some other cars so you can see them. And like I said, I've got to go to some older cars. Oh, I'll give you a quick look at some new cars I did, because I haven't put these on here yet. I did this one, I think I did 3 cars yesterday, because I was just sitting here with my head cold. I had nothing else to do. I really like this car. I really like the colour scheme. Because it's a road car, you'll see that there's not much by way of decals. But that doesn't mean it didn't take me a while. Trust me, it took me a while. Especially to line things up, like, you know, these lines, themselves. The lines down here in particular around this section, that was very tricky trying to get that the way it is. I hope you like that effect that I've tried to achieve there, like this cross kind of section, if you like. These liveries back here and these lines took a bit of work, and at the back as well. Wasn't a long one, but a little bit tricky. What I love about it is the colour. The colour just leaps out at me. I don't know about yourself, what you think about it. That's another thing too, guys. You'll notice that every one of my cars, especially, well, maybe not early ones, I'll make an exemption because I don't know if the early ones I did, but I really think it's worth your while to take a bit of time doing little touches like mirrors, like window edges, and I'll show you one I did yesterday to highlight the window edge bit. Excuse me. I think it just sets the car, you know, like if you just leave it plain as opposed to trying to follow the same theme. You can see the theme there I've applied, the grey, the black and the fluoro green. I think it's regarded as green, not blue. Obviously some more work from Erlingo there, the Lamborghini name. I'm not sure if the bull is his though. And then again with the roof, you know, I could have just stuck the Lamborghini badge in there, but as you can see, I've done some work around it, following the same theme as the side of the car and the bonnet, to just give it extra effect, you know. So yes, that's a Hurricane. We'll get out of there. We don't need to save anything because we haven't done anything. The car that I was talking about was this car. This is the most basic design I've done in probably 3 months, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to create a car that was as white as I could make it, with as little decals as I could put on. And obviously being this car, I thought, yep, why not, let's do it with this one. So I'm not a huge fan of white, but I thought, you know what, I need to do some white cars because I don't have a lot. So I picked this GT40. You can see I've done some work. The front splitter down the bottom, those two little air intakes there. I like the decal I did on the bonnet. I don't know if you like it, but I do. I mean, it's not too complex to look at, but I think the colours in connection with the Ford logo are really, I don't know, they just look good, in my opinion. And what I said about the mirrors, right there, you know, I could have just left it red or white, but, you know, just put a bit of effort in. And then you'll see around the windows, that's what I was talking about, it just gives it a bit of an effect, you know. In some of the games you can actually just colour code the windows via one of the decal shapes, but you can't on this car. Again, I just continued the stripe on from the front over the roof and then down the back, and then at the back nothing really. The gurney flap has a colour on it, and the two exhaust pipe front plate has a. Other than that, it's just pretty basic. Don't know what you think. Please let me know if you like it, or if you don't. Okay, don't need to save again. We can get out of there. I did a similar thing to another car I did yesterday too. Which car was that? Was it the Mazda? No, I don't think it was. Sorry guys, I've just got to remember which other car I did work on yesterday, because I did do a similar thing and I'd like to show that to you, but I've got to remember what car it was that I did it on. What other car did I do yesterday? if I can, just looking at all these ones to see if it was one of these. I don't think it was the Mazda. I'll have a look, because I did this car yesterday too, which is quite a different livery again. I must admit that lately I am a bit, no, it's not this car, I am a bit taken by the fluoro colours that have only just recently been brought out. Initially I wasn't going to do much to this car, and I was trying to create an effect with the lines, a lot of work in there in those lines. This is a Mazda Atenza. I thought with it being orange, what other number plate do you give it but juice? Yeah, try to be a bit different with the front too, the treatment, you can see there. Big black arch. The roof took me a while, look at the lines. They're not perfect, they were just done with my eye. But if I go out a bit, you'll see some of the spaces at the back there where they're not exactly perfectly spaced. But considering I was using my naked eye, it's not too bad. Again, those Mazda gold logos are Alingos. Yeah, I tried to keep it in line, but it was actually, yeah, anyway, I won't talk about it. I talked about the mirrors, so this is another example of it. You know, I could have just left it as the plain orange or plain black, but I've tried to carry the same colour code theme into the mirrors, and I think it just, I don't know, you tell me what you think. Do you think it adds to the design, or does it detract from it? I don't think it detracts from it at all, but I'm happy for people's opinion. Anyway, that's not the car. Which car was it? Oh, it was the Corvette, that's what it was. I've got to find it. I can't find this Corvette. I designed a Corvette yesterday, and I quite liked the look of it. Ah, there it is there. This one. This was a daily drive prize that I won yesterday, and I thought, oh, can't help myself with these earlier Corvettes. I really do love them. My only annoying factor with these Corvettes is you can't run nice big wheels on them. Excuse me. So, look, again, I've tried to be quite simple with this car. I've not gone overboard. I thought I'd do this little thing with the scoops, even though they're fake. There's nothing coming out. There's no air vent there. But I thought rather than just leave them normal, I'd do a little bit of trick, and I used a couple of design tricks to get that all nice and neat in there. Just gives it a bit of effect, you know, might look a bit corny, I don't know. Same with this logo, it's actually two logos there, and I've just noticed there's a gap that I need to fix. Might do that now. I didn't realise that. No, wrong one. Let's try that again. Be here somewhere. Oh, that could be it. And it is. It'll be the same on the other side, so I have to fix both sides. You can see a bit of red there, so I just need to hide that like that. That's a bit slack of me. Finish that, then go do the other side as well, because it'll be the same, because they're duplicated. And yet it's not. How weird. Okay. Oh, Sean. Sorry. Note to self, make sure you're out of the design before you start pushing all your buttons. No, I do not want to discard all the changes. No, I do not. Okay. So, what I was talking about was I did the mirror using I'll show you. It won't hurt to show you. And I don't normally do this, but I did the roof. I'm not going to duplicate it, but just so you see, by basically grabbing that icon and spreading it all across the roof, and the finish, or the sorry, my bad, the finish that I got got to remember to save this. It was actually pretty cool in that it came down and around on the roof like that, and because of this fastback look, I was kind of like, yeah, that's really cool. And so I duplicated it, and I got my black edge that you can see there, but the edge stopped here at the door frame, and I thought, I'd really like to continue that on around the whole roof line. So that's what I did. I made this. It's a bit messy, isn't it, actually, now that I look at it. I won't bore you while I fix it, but I will come back in and I will fix that, because I get a bit pedantic about that stuff. Anyway, so that's this Corvette. A bit of treatment work around the air vents on the bonnet. Chevrolet Power, nice livery, nice decal. I don't know who created that. And very simple number plate. I thought about changing the bumper bar colours. You can actually colour the whole bumper bar. You'll see I've done the 3 colours at the bottom there. But I chose to leave it as original. My other one, I have colour coded it. In fact, I'll probably go there in a minute, because that might not have Iflowboy on it. But yeah, I've tried to keep it pretty basic as well. Alright, I need to save this one, apologies, it'll take time because I had to fix that Chevrolet logo. We'll go and we'll have a look at the other Corvette, the same Corvette, just to make sure, because that one I did a fair while ago. Pretty confident it has my Iflowboy at YouTube on it, but I'm just going to check. And if it doesn't, then I'll add it. And if it does, I can go straight back out, but in the meantime you can get to see the car. I'm trying to go through this as fast as I can for you. I'm mindful that it may not be too exciting if I rabbit on while I'm adding a name, as opposed to just taking you through some of the cars. But if I have to add it, I'm trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so you know, I'm sure that if you do get bored, you will exercise your right to leave the broadcast. I'll be sad to see you go, but I understand. I'm probably going to do some racing after this, and what I will actually do, I'll probably stop the broadcast, and then I'll jump in and I'll start a new broadcast. But what I'm going to go to do is I'm going to go into the campaign mode, and I'm going to give any of you players a bit of a tip if you're trying to build your bank balance. I notice that there are a lot of people that open up rooms on the special X route and run a long race in auto drive as a means of collecting money. I have a tip for you. There is a race in campaign which takes you approximately 12 minutes. Well, I do it in 12 minutes, so you may be faster, you may be able to do it sub 12 minutes, you may be slow, it might take you 13, 14 minutes. In either case, you can do 4 of these races basically in an hour. Now, if you pick the right car, and I'll take you through that, and if you set it up correctly, and you drive a clean race, what I mean by that is you don't have any significant, well, preferably no contact at all with the other cars in the race, which are all AI cars run by the game, that you're not competing against anybody. Provided you do the race without hitting the walls and without hitting the other cars, you will get both a handicap bonus and a clean race bonus. If you achieve both of those for a 12-minute race, you will pocket $340,000 in game credits. So you do the maths in an hour of what you can earn, provided you achieve, and you have to win, by the way. The prize money obviously goes down based on where you finish, and there's 2 different fields that the game throws at you. One field has the LaFerrari, the other one has a Veyron or an Enzo, one of the, you know, a slower car than the LaFerrari. In the LaFerrari mode, you pretty much have to drive perfectly with the car on the settings that I choose to beat him. With the other ones, you get a lot more leeway, and you generally take the lead by around lap 10 or a lap 11. It's a 15-lap race, but a lap usually only takes you about 46 to 47 seconds, hence you can do it in 12 minutes. I was going to show you the other Corvette. So yeah, so I will show you that in another broadcast. There it is there. because it's a good tip for you to build your bank balance, particularly if you aspire to buy the more expensive cars. I purchased my second $20 million car just 3 days ago, and I'll show you that because I haven't put that on here yet. Yeah, you can see there that the bumper bar, well, let me do preview mode, you can see better. You can see there that I have painted the bumper bar and I've put a pinstripe on it as well. I don't know, it seemed more appropriate to do because the car has a blue. Again, I've tried to be very basic with the colour scheme, with the liveries. Oh, I've done a similar thing for this one, I didn't realise that. Not as, what's the word, cheesy, but even so. Again, minimal things. Basically followed that design line from the front through to the roof and tapered back down at the back with the little pinstripe around the roof again. Again, trying to highlight the shapes, the contours of the car. And look at that, we do not have an Iflowboy, so we are about to. Yeah, but back to the racing. It takes a long time to get money. I bought that car 4 days ago. I have competed in a fair few races in the last 3 or 4 days. But what you'll see in a minute when we get out of this screen is that my bank balance is not very high because I went back to 0 because for those of you who don't play the game, 20 million is the maximum the game now lets you have in your bank. It used to be 100 million in Gran Turismo 6, but in this game it's 20, which means that if you do buy one of the, if you like, the Halo cars, you know, the ones that are most coveted, you know, historically significant, have a massive value in the real world, such as the Ferrari 250 GTO, which I have, and the Jaguar XK, which I bought the other day, are two of the most expensive cars in the world if you were to buy them. I think the record still sits with the Ferrari at $48 million for one car. Gives you an idea of how valuable that car is. But yeah, in the game's infinite wisdom, they've now limited you to 20 million. So as soon as you buy one of those cars, your bank balance drops back to 0. And so you then have to build it up again. I can see in one way why they've done it, but to be honest, it's a pain in the neck when you're trying to acquire cars. The next one on the agenda, I can't decide whether I just go for the Lamborghini Miura, which isn't 20 million, I think it's only 15, or I go for the Ferrari P1 330, I think that's the name of it, excuse me if I'm wrong. Oh, sorry. Oh, stop doing that game. Yeah, so it takes a long time. If you're just competing in normal events and normal races, you got to do lots of races to get that sort of money. Hence, when you do turn up at a show or in a room with a $20 million car, you get lots of people asking you, did you get that on a daily prize or did you buy it? Because they're obviously sitting there going, how did you earn $20 million? Because it's not easy. But I'm hopeful that what I'm telling you and what I'm going to show you later will help you to achieve that goal. It's not cheating, it's in the game. I'm not doing anything that's wrong, we're not tricking the game, we're not doing anything at all, we're just racing in a race, picking a particular car that has the capacity to beat them if you drive it well, to maximise the prize money. And I have no doubt that they designed the game to allow people to achieve it, as otherwise it wouldn't be in there as a factor in terms of the reward. So, you know, what they're basically saying is if you're good enough, race in a car that's well below the performance of the cars around you, beat those cars, and you'll be rewarded. So, yeah, and look, I didn't discover it by accident. One of my best mates who I absolutely, well, if I say I love him, he'll think I'm weird, but I do love him. His name's Harry, or Homebrew. He's probably my favourite friend on this game. I have all the time in the world for him, and am always happy when he's in the room playing with me, because he's such a nice guy. But yeah, I think he was the one that told me about it, or maybe it was Pete, another good mate. But it was one of those two guys anyway, who I've raced with for a long time on this game. Both Harry, Peter, and our lost friend. Still makes me sad when I think about it. We lost a good friend, Bert, in March this year. Quite young. He got cancer, sadly, and he's no longer with us. But he was, him and Harry were kind of similar. They both were these very humble, uneffacing kind of guys that just, they just were nice guys. Anyway, it was one of those guys that put me onto it, and so I'm just passing on the secret, if you like, or passing on the knowledge. Anyway, so I'm just almost there. Just got to add the Y, and then we add the iPhone, the YouTube, the @ and the YouTube thing, and we're good to go. I think we should be okay too. I don't think we're gonna struggle for room. We're only just hit the halfway mark across the car, so we should be okay. I'm just making the letters a bit wider. You can see that I'm doing that, and that's just because sometimes from a distance the wider letters are easier to see, as you can see. We'll go for a red @ I think. I hate this music. If you can hear it, I'm sorry. Please protest to Polyphony or Mr. Guzanori and let him know that it's the most horrible sound on the game. All the rest of the music I actually really love. I think they've made some really excellent music choices in GT Sport. There's particularly one song, can't stop thinking about you, and it's just a really cool song. I don't know why, but it reminds me. Well, it doesn't remind me because I've never done it. It's on my bucket list, but it makes me imagine what it would be like driving along the French Riviera in a 1950s, 1960s kind of convertible car, like a Porsche 356. Or an early Ferrari convertible. It just has that feel to it. It's called Can't Help or Can't Stop Thinking About You. And the other thing that I like about it, I think at the end of it, is there's this guy who's on a ham radio or a two-way radio, and he's sort of saying, "Is anybody out there? Is there anybody there? Is there anyone?" And it also makes me think of a few things like Terminator movies, a few other movies where people have discovered a connection somewhere. I don't know why, it just, maybe it's my massively wild imagination, but yeah. So congratulations to the Polyphony guys. I probably criticise them a lot, but I ought to give them compliments for things that they do, and amongst them, these car livery tools are pretty good for what they are. I get that they had limitations on what they could do, but the livery tool and the whole livery part of the game is fantastic, and I suspect, as I've said in earlier broadcasts, that because of the popularity of it, I expect the next Gran Turismo game to have a totally separate, dedicated section to car shows and car liveries. Because I think I'm going to have to make that all red, I think, because the U's a bit hard to see. Because it's very popular, because, it's one thing that people love racing, right? And I love racing like the next guy. I have for my whole life. I won't give away my age, but I am on the other side of 50. Only just, but... and my whole life, as long as I can remember, I've been into cars and been into racing. I think I owe that to my dad. At a very young age, he was into motorsport, and we would often go to car racing. I remember going to a place called Emery Park when I was probably 7 or 8, but I remember even before that, my dad waking us up and telling us that the Bathurst 1000 race was on back in those days. And I told you my age. Back in those days, that race took around 8 to 8.5 hours. So it started at like 8 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday, and so our dad would wake us up and say, "Boys, the race is about to start," because I have two brothers. And so from a young age I've been into car racing, so I love it, hence I'm in this game. But having said that, the other thing that's pretty common within people is this desire to create, to build something, to make something. And I think what they will observe if they gather big data or business intelligence gathering, as it's called, on the game, I think they are going to be quite surprised at the way in which, I'm just shrinking this to make it look better. Yeah, that's good. I've got to save it again, I apologise. I think they will find that this is something that has so much popularity. I know when I go in to the game, very rarely there is not a car show or a show your car or a car meet room or rooms. When you go into those rooms, usually they get very full very quickly, and people stay in there for hours if they can. And I think if you just look in the Discover section and you look at all the liveries that are published, or you go into the library and look at all the scapes photos of people's liveries, clearly people like to create and people like to be individual or unique, which again flies in the face of those people that copy liveries and jump into car shows, but I'm not going there again. So yeah, I think I expect and I hope that Mr. Kazunori will have that information at his disposal and will recognise that there are a lot of people that love doing this part of the game almost as much as they love racing. I'll always take my cars out onto the track and drive them around because that's fun, but I also love the whole process of creating the liveries. So that's my bit of feedback for Polyphony, for Mr. Kazunori, who one day I hope to meet again. One of many people I hope to meet in my life. I haven't had a lot of success meeting famous people, I guess. I have over the years, but I've never been the sort of person that's hero worshipped people. And if I have met people, it's been usually through work functions, going to sporting events where you're in corporate boxes and things like that. In those situations, you don't really get to meet people and talk to people. But I would love to meet certain people and have long conversations with them about their life, because you see, if you like, the headlines and the tabloids, but you don't really know the person and their life. And I would love to, I think as more of a respect than anything, understand the person's life, because they are a person. Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we just see them as this object, or we see them as a character out of a TV show, a movie, they're in a band, they're in politics, whatever it is. They have some kind of notoriety or fame, and it's that people get attracted to. But I often think people forget that it's a person, just like you and me, and they have all the same trials and tribulations in their life away from the cameras or the TVs and the newspapers. And sometimes we forget that, I think. But I've always got it on my mind. Okay, so I told you I'd show you this this Jaguar. This is a $20 million car. And again, I did something different with this car. I went for a colour fade look. And you can see that it goes from being a grey to being a red. And I hadn't really done it before. I did it on a previous car, a Porsche, just a day or two earlier. And I thought, the British racing green's a bit dull, and every time I see a $20 million car, I've only ever seen one other guy. I think his name's RV Irvine or RV Vine, something like that. I think he's Italian or Irish, I can't remember. He's got a 250 GT, and he has a livery on it. That's the only other 20 million car that I've seen in the game where they've actually put a livery on it. All the rest of them are in the original paint that they come with in the game, and I don't know, why wouldn't you paint it? Oh, that's interesting. I mustn't have saved it. Oh, that's right, I remember now. I had actually colour-coded the screws around the lights, but I fell asleep and when I woke up the game had closed and I hadn't saved it, so I lost it. So I actually had to do this delivery basically almost 3 times. Not the whole lot, but quite a significant amount of it. Don't know what you think of the choice of the wheels. I kind of liked it. I ummed and ahed a lot over the wheels before I went for that big rim look. But I think it looks okay. You can see that the stripes go from red at the front with the grey to grey at the back on the red. Again, it's my naked eye lining that up. I don't know how accurate I am. I'm getting pretty good at lining things up, so if I'm out, I'm not out by much. But yeah, I always love the look of this car. And like the 250 GTO, they both go very well. You can see why at their time when they were first built. And this is obviously a Le Mans racing car, so it was obviously built for speed and to compete in racing. But this thing's still good for 330, 340 kilometers an hour. I was quite surprised at how fast it is. The 250 GT is not as fast, but it still goes quite alright, that's for sure. Anyway, I said I'd come in and show you that car, and I have. So I'll now go and find some more where the liveries may need my name added to them. Generally, these okay, they're all new. Most of these are fairly new. This one hasn't got really anything on it. This is a that's interesting. Why has it brought that up? That's really weird. Sorry, I'm jumping out of the editor because I've been distracted. I need to go back in. I don't understand why it's brought that up when they are separate cars. Sometimes the game does things like that. Sorry, I've wasted time. If I go to Bugatti, you'll see all of my Bugattis, and that's that car there. It's totally separate, and that's a totally separate one as well, and that's a separate one as well. So I don't understand why when I select that, it's giving me that. I don't understand. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and have a look. I'm pretty sure this won't have my name on it, and it's that colour. How bizarre. Alright, exit out of that. Go back in. Select the car again. This time I'll select the second one. Let's see what we get. Maybe the game's just confused and doesn't load. I do not understand. Even up the top there, it's showing the purple livery. I don't know if you've noticed up here. Oh, can I get to it? I don't know if I can. No, won't let me go there. But up in that top right corner there, it says Veron 1. It's even showing that purple colour, and yet I'm seeing this car. That's like a glitch. That's not good at all. Well, I don't want to do anything with it because I want to get that fixed before I wonder why. When I had this car, I actually drove this car yesterday, and it was definitely purple. Let me go to this one, see what it gives me. Same thing. Alright, I'm going to leave it rather than waste your time, and I'll come back to that in my own time. Alright, what other cars may not have it? They do. He does. Does Mr. Ferrari? Excuse me. I'm pretty sure I put this on recently, so it should be okay. This is one of my favourite cars as well, actually. I have thought about doing a change, and that is to the wheels. It's not that I don't like them, it's just that I wonder whether a 5-spoke rim might be more suited to the car, but anyway. I love the line work, the colours and the line work that I did on this. Very much tried to follow like a, I guess like a fighter plane cockpit kind of look, where you've got your I don't know if you've noticed on the fighter planes where they've got that very shaped, tapered cockpit glass around the pilot. And I tried to do a similar thing for the two seats with this one, try to create that. I mean, I know it's not the same, don't get me wrong, but that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to create this two-seater cockpit look with the livery. Anyway, you can see the mirrors again, like I said, following the theme. I think it just adds to the car. And we're good. I do have it on there. You can actually get that logo too, the F40, but that work if I show you. And the reason I'm showing you this is just to show you that you don't have to necessarily, I think it's in other, you don't necessarily have to be put off if you can't. I'll spin it round and then you'll see, and I'll zoom in so you can see that these items, sorry, I'm just going to move the camera so you can see that it's definitely it. Sorry, my bad. So when I move it, you'll see it's moving around. So that F40 in red, it comes standard as silver, I think the colour is, was filled in by me doing the colour coding all around it. So, you know, there are things you can do if you can't. I couldn't find a decal that was red to put on it. There is one now, I've seen it. But yeah, you can. And I use that as a number plate. I was asked a question one time because you're supposed to have plated cars to drive around the track. And I said, yeah, I do, there they are. It's F40, that's the number plate, it's in red. Normally it's not. I didn't change anything, so I can just get straight out. Hope you had a good enough look at the car. I'll let it spin a bit more before I jump out. It usually goes okay when I enter it into a car show. I think the biggest dilemma for me now, given that I've got 163 or whatever it is liveries that I've got, is I've got a lot of cars that usually fall into a category. So, you know, if the category is the UK, and I'll give you an example of it actually. Open a design, pick my country. I have to decide which of these cars I'm going to choose to put in a show. Some of them are easier than others, but if the category is the UK, that's the challenge I have. If it's the USA, which is very unusual that I have this many US liveries, I don't ask me why, I just do now. I think in part due to that car there, because I've got 4 of them on their own. I've got that one, that one, that one, and there's another one hiding somewhere. That one there. Got 4 of them. Plus I've got the 2 Corvettes. Plus I have 3 Novas, which I love. I love those Novas. They're great. The General Lees, and a few Mustangs as well. So yeah, trying to pick a car when you've got that many is never easy. So alright, I think we're covered in terms of the Iflowboy for everything up here. Yes, I did. This guy won't have one. This design, when you see this, I think you'll go, yuck, and I won't be surprised. This was a very early design. It was my first real go at playing with shapes. And I really didn't have a solid direction with what I was doing. I just wanted to do an all-over checker car, but a bit, you know, slightly different. So you can see that there's different size checkers, and I really do need to change it. I really need to finish it, because as you can see at the back here, it's not. But I've kind of kept it, and I've kept it more as a reminder of my progress with designing. Now, when I say that, I don't want to sound like I'm some expert now, because people may look at my designs and still go, you don't have a clue and your taste is bad, etc, etc. That's fair enough. But I think if I look at the early ones that I did, and as I've progressed and become better, this was one of those transition cars where I just started to think more laterally about livery design. It's terrible, to be honest. The colour itself isn't so bad if I took off all the checkers or if I played with it. It probably wouldn't be too bad. But the fact that I've done the front end totally differently and not finished, and I think the reason why that happened was because back at the time when I was doing the design, I didn't understand how to use all the tools. I didn't understand how to use the projection tool in particular to tidy up stuff like this. And so I think by the time I got to this point with the car, and I had this stuff going on in air ducts and things, and I didn't know how to fix it, I'm pretty sure I just went, you know what, this is a bit too hard, I'm just going to stop and go racing. And for whatever reason, I've never come back to this car to finish it. I don't know what I would do if I was to actually finish it. My thought is that I would continue the white trim, but the reality is I don't know what I would do. Anyway, I don't show it, so the question is, do I need to put Iflowboy on it? I probably could, because I have raced it. I do race it. In fact, I only raced it the other day, and somebody made a comment about it. They weren't. It was a positive comment, but it was also a tongue-in-cheek comment, because, like I said, as you can clearly see, it's not finished. It's not even close. I'm going to have to go from here, I think, because if I go any wider, I'm going to be impinging upon the wrap side of that corner. So we'll just go from here, I think, is a safe bet. Make it a bit thinner, because I'm going to have to squeeze it in. Like I said, I'm not going to change the colour. White works perfectly here, so I don't even need to do what I'm about to do. I just need to go here and here and move them, so it should be pretty quick. So when you get better at it, you can scale while you're moving to save a bit of time as well. So that's my voice failing. Just trying to make them a bit thinner, as I said. I'll do. Too keen. Sorry, I hope it doesn't hurt your eyes when I move the screen around like that very quickly. I'm just trying to save time so I don't bore you to death. Maybe already a lost cause, you may have already died from boredom listening to my broadcast, but I hope that isn't the case. Look, please leave comments, let me know whether what I'm covering is interesting or boring, whether you'd like me to talk about other stuff, whether you'd like me to show you other stuff. I do these broadcasts because I enjoy doing them, but at the same time, not being prescriptive or dictatorial about what I cover. At the end of the day, you're the people that are watching it, so I'd like to make sure that I'm doing things that you want to see. So please leave comments when you watch. Let me know if it's the kind of stuff you like, or if there's something you'd like me to do. If you'd like me to pick a car and do a livery and broadcast me doing the livery. I don't typically broadcast the whole livery design because sometimes they can take a long time. My record is 11 hours, I think, for one livery. Not in one session, over a period of days. But it gives you an idea as to the amount of work and effort you can put into a design. That one was doing the Honda NSX, and when I show you the design of it, you'll kind of understand why it took me as long as it did. These days I am a bit better, a bit faster. Probably being a bit slow here because I'm talking to you at the same time, so my brain's multitasking as I talk and act. But generally speaking, I am a lot faster than I used to be. And I think it's just familiarity, you know, like anything, when you do things a lot, you repeat it a lot. You know, you get brain memory and muscle memory, whatever they want to call it. And you just are able to operate at a higher level. Now you can see we've gone over halfway already and I haven't even put the Y in, so YouTube is going to get a bit... YouTube is going to get a bit squished, I fear. I should probably go outside and wash my car today too. I've been parking it. I used to always drive. I've always been fortunate in that I've always had a car spot. And at the moment I actually can park in the city where our office is because our owner is overseas running one of his overseas businesses. So when he's not around, I'm the boss here, so I can use that car spot and we pay for it, so it makes sense to use it. But I've been catching the train and have done for the last 5 or 6 weeks since I started this role. And I actually am quite liking it. It's still a bit of a novelty for me because for the last 25 to 30 years I've never really regularly caught a train. You can see I'm struggling here. I'm going to have to move this. I'm going to have to make it smaller and move it. Sorry, it's going to take time, but otherwise it won't work. I think if I shrink them, it should work. That's about as far over as I can go though. Sorry, I have to resize this. I knew I was going to be doing it tough, but and I'm also going to have to pull in the gaps too. Just to make space so you can fit YouTube in and it looks nice and neat. You might say, oh come on, you could have fitted it in while you're being pedantic. And I am being pedantic, I admit it. But at the end of the day, when you sit there and you look at something you've done, and you know you put the effort in to make it as good as you can make it, you feel more of a sense of achievement, and you feel good about what you did, as opposed to looking at it going, you know what, I could have done better, but I just didn't. You know, they talk about you only get one opportunity to do something at your best. In terms of a legacy, this is a legacy, but you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, so I kind of try to approach that with most things that I do. Probably women of the world that have lived with me would probably argue the only time I don't practice that is when it comes to home hygiene. And I don't have an excuse. I have a theory, but the reality that's a cop-out. It's not about being lazy, it's just I never see it as a good use of my time. And that may or may not sound arrogant or stupid, I don't know, but yeah, I just don't, you know, I know you have to keep your house clean, I know that, but yeah, in the list of things with the limited time you have every day to do, it doesn't rank high. My former girlfriend, who still has some clothing here, even though she doesn't live here anymore and won't come back to stay, I won't call her a clean freak, that's probably unfair, but cleanliness is a big issue for her, and I know that she struggled with me and my approach to home hygiene. I don't mean personal hygiene, I mean home hygiene, just to clarify. I'm certainly fussy when it comes to my personal hygiene. Now you can see by reducing the font and moving it just a fraction to the left, I've made a significant space saving. We're now over on the side. I might go for a colour change on the @ what do we got? A yellow would probably be good, wouldn't it? Yeah. Might even do the YouTubers yellow too. And look, the reason I've done this on this car, even though I may never go in and finish the livery, even though I may never ever show it, I will definitely race it, as I said, and for that reason it's worth my while, because I like to promote. You know, if I'm going to do broadcasts, I'm going to invest the time, I might as well let people know that this exists, and this is one of the great ways to do it. I'm still going to play with this because it's just, I don't like how it's sitting. Squish it down and drop it down. It's a bit better, doesn't it? There you go. Now we do have to save it, I apologise, but once it's done, it's done. So yeah, so that car there was transitional. I don't remember when I did it, but I know it was one of the first ones that I truly started to experiment with shapes, add shapes, and so yeah, it was, I guess, an integral part of me developing the level of livery skill that I have right now, at whatever level that may be regarded at. Alright, I'll probably do another 13 minutes because that'll be a 90-minute broadcast, and then I'll probably turn it off and I'll probably jump into campaign. So, if you want to watch or join the next broadcast, it'll probably be in the next half hour to an hour that I will move into campaign mode. I race a Porsche. It's the, I think it's the 2003 911 RS, I think it is. It's a road car. And when you join the broadcast, you'll see the settings that I run, which is to not run it at its full potential. I think I run it at like 98%, I think. And it just means you basically have to drive the wheels off it and be perfectly clean. Do not hit a wall, do not hit another car. And trust me, the game tries to catch you out several times during a race. With cars that will go into a slide when you get near them, or they'll take a different line, or they'll actually hit a wall themselves and bounce back out towards you. So the game itself has a few little tricks in there that it throws at you to try and bring you unstuck. A couple of times the other day when I was doing this race, I was racing against the LaFerrari. I caught him on lap 12, I think it was, so there was basically 4 laps to go. And the LaFerrari, as you know, is an extremely fast car, and I'm in a, incapacitated, if I can use that, or handicapped 911 at normally aspirated Porsche. So the LaFerrari is obviously going to walk away from it. But what was happening is through the corners I'm much faster because the game driver obviously isn't as highly graded, if that makes sense. And twice he got into slides, and I tried to be close to him because obviously I'm trying to maximise my speed through these sweeping corners at this particular track, which is effectively a type of oval track but not exactly an oval. And twice he's slidden out, and I've had contact with him as he slid out just as I've got near him, and it's caused me to have a slide. And of course, because I've had a slide, he then gets away from me, and the gap that he builds is too much for me to catch him before the race finishes. So that's what I mean by the game trying to catch you out. We're going to leave that Bugatti alone. We've done that car. I know they're done. That's done. That's done. That's done. That's done. That's done. Is my little Mazda Roadster done? Oh, I just saw the car that took me 10 hours too. So I'll quickly jump in and show you that after this, and then we might we might end the broadcast then. I'm not sure if it's got Iflowboy. I think it does. This was a pretty quick... Yeah, this one doesn't. This was a pretty quick paint scheme, just to quickly show you. It was effectively a car that I did in the silver, or the chrome silver. Oh no, it's just a matte silver, sorry. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I did this one in about 20 minutes or less, because the guys were racing them. And all my friends that we race with, we have this policy that you should always do a livery before you bring a car in. But you can tell it was a rush job for a few reasons. One, there's no decals, and it's a race car. Second is that the mirrors don't have anything on them, and I haven't put my name on the back of it. So I will fix this one day, because it does look a bit plain. But for now, let's just do the logo. Excuse me. So yeah, by the time I do this, and I'm going to go for the burgundy colour. Always a good idea to do this before you start moving it around, because it makes it easier to see it. And I'm going to try and fit it on that combined space there, yeah, like that. I don't know how that's going to look. I know one thing, I'm going to have to move it over because I've got the number there. And if you go right out here. Okay. Again, I'm just pre-planning the space I need. I try to get it right the first time, like, you know, the old builder's model: measure twice, cut once. I'm not a builder, so I don't always get that methodology correct. Oops. I want to give a shout out to my nephew too, Bodie. I think I mentioned to him once about looking at my broadcast, but I don't know whether he has since. But I know he likes looking at cars. He's been into cars for a while. He's got a few remote control cars at home. And he loves Lamborghinis, and he's got a really good toy car collection. I will actually let him know that he can look at these broadcasts, because I forgot to tell him about them when I last saw him. You know, he's at that age where this stuff is kind of cool as well. I think he's 13 now. I'm kind of dying to see whether he develops the same character as my younger brother, his father. Because his father was... How do I politely say this about my brother? He was mischievous. There you go. He wasn't bad. He wasn't... what's the word? He didn't do anything bad. He wasn't a juvenile delinquent or anything like that. But he was adventurous and he was mischievous. I think that's probably the fairest thing to say, and I just wonder whether his son is going to have that same characteristic or not. I know that his son did say something to me the last time I was down there, and I remember thinking, oh, okay. Well, that's a bit of my younger brother coming out in his son. He wasn't rude or anything, it was just a comment that he made, and I won't even go into more detail because I do not want to bring any harm on him. But I was quite surprised to hear him say it. And but yeah, I know he regularly jumps on YouTube. I know he's seen some of this stuff, but I should mention to him that I've done a lot more broadcasts. He's also really into the Minecraft stuff, and I haven't done much Minecraft, but if you go to my channel and just type in Iflowboy in your search engine, it should bring up my channel. And if you scroll through all of the broadcasts, you will see that there's quite a few Minecraft broadcasts. The thing that I'll say about the Minecraft broadcasts is that most of them are not narrated. I generally don't have my headset on when I do them, and that's probably because I've got to concentrate even more in Minecraft for what I do. When I play Minecraft, I am designing things. I'm not playing the game as such. I don't have monsters and all that sort of stuff turned on. I'm in creative mode, and I'm all about designing things as well. So I design houses, buildings, apartment blocks, stadiums, landmarks, like in my PS3 Minecraft game, which has now been deleted by my ex-girlfriend's son on accident. I know, he didn't mean to do it. I had Old City, and I had sports stadiums. I had Empire State Building. I built the Opera House, the Sydney Opera House. I built the Sydney Harbour Bridge. I built the Eiffel Tower. I built the World Trade Center buildings. It's a bit of a tribute to the victims. I built a cruise ship, and when I say cruise ship, a fully decked out cruise ship. Pretty big structure, took me a long time to do. I built an aircraft carrier, I built a cargo ship, I built streets, tunnels, bridges, airport. I built a massive airport. That's why you change the colour before you start moving it. My bad, because I'm talking. Again, it's a bit tricky getting the size right when it rolls over like it is onto that lip, but I think I'm okay. Get that out of the way. So yeah, because unfortunately that game was deleted, and because PS4 came out too, I've had to start a new game, if you like. And so I've built a few things in there, but certainly not to the level that I had in the old PS3 game. But anyway, the stuff that I have done is on there. At the moment, I'm in the middle of starting a city. What does that mean? It means that I'm going to build up a city like I did in my PS3 game. But because it's not already built, I've got to start from scratch. So where I'm at the moment is I am constructing the city in terms of the streets, which is a bit different to what I did in PS3. Again, like anything, you learn as you... Oh, Sean, wrong button. You learn as you go how to do certain things and the order that you should do things. And one of the things that I learned is that if I'm going to build a city, instead of doing it in an ad hoc way as I done in the PS3 game, it actually will make life easier if you plan it from the start. So rather than me go bonkers and just start knocking up buildings and then worrying about where they sit and how they sit, I've actually spent the time getting the area prepared. What I mean by that is I found a section that was probably as open, and when I say open I mean, no mountains or things like that, that had relatively small levels of hills, and then I began tidying that area up, is the word I'll use, so that I could build a city that would be on a flat section. So what it meant was that I had to do a lot of clearing, and I don't know how many hours it took me to do it, but it's worth it. And I'm almost done with the road works around it. And when I say a bit of time, I think in total, because I've reclaimed land as well and I've added water. What does that mean? Obviously in the game you have land and you have water, and the way I wanted to do the design was I wanted the city to be by the water, but the area wasn't exactly next to significant water. So what I've had to do is I've had to carve out a little bit of a mountain and dig it right down so that I could effectively bring the ocean closer to the city. So if you have a look at the broadcast, you should see information about that. You should see me doing that. It's not finished. I've still got, for want of a better term, a framework sitting there for when I filled the ocean section in with water, because that's how you do it. You can't just, make a space and then magically the ocean flows into it. Well, not on the PlayStation game anyway. I think the PC game's got some shortcuts, but in the PlayStation game you have to physically put the water there yourself. So that's what I did, and the easiest way to do that is to actually have structures there that you can dump the water onto and make the water fill in, if that makes sense. So the framework is still there because I'm not 100% finished with it yet, but that's not too bad. I might not even need to change the colour, just shrinking and stretching to make it look neater. Alright, it's not in centre, but that's because the game number's there. Good enough. Alrighty, so I am on the cusp of ending this broadcast. I'm just going to show you the car that took me 10 hours to do. I'm pretty sure that is the longest. I may stand corrected if I spot another car, but at the moment I think that's correct, that this car was the longest build, and when you see it you'll probably understand why. I had some challenges in terms of the way that I went with the design. In challenges, I mean, I decided that I wanted to do the design, but again, because it was fairly early on in my learning of how to use the tools, I was doing a lot of trial and error as I went with edges and shapes and contours. And you'll see that some of the results are not perfect. If I zoom in on certain parts, you'll probably see that there are flaws. If I did that again, if I had to do that livery again now, I think I would be able to do it in half the time, maybe even better, because I'm just so much better at using the tools and navigating the menus, etc. So I think it wouldn't take me 10 hours again. Alright, so if we find that car, we'll find this car. Oh, I know what that is. That's the various saves along the way. Yeah. Okay. Let me go on a preview mode again. Sorry I'm yawning. I had a late night last night. And as I said, I've got a head cold, so that's probably not helping my breathing. And yawning is about breathing. So as you can see, I had to align every line. This is not a wrap, it's not a copy paste. Every single line had to be aligned, and like I said, you will notice that there are some inconsistencies. Some of them just relate to the shape of the panel, not my work, but there are others that are probably my work that just don't align correctly. But yes, as you can see, I do have Iflowboy on there. I better override it. A bit of a play on the number plate there, NXX. Now, for those of you in Australia, you will well and truly know of a band called INXS, which is INXS. They were globally popular until their lead singer passed away suddenly. And so I thought, oh well, it's an NSX, INXS, NSX. Yeah, so now you'll notice, yes, this is what I mean about the inconsistency. See there, the roof isn't, that line there should really be continued on, but I haven't done it. So there are things that, because this is fairly on in the piece for me, these pillars in the black, was a lot of work trying to get them right. You can see there that the edge isn't perfect, but it was just so hard back in the day. But that is all. There's a little dot there that needs to be fixed. So, you know, if I get in really close, you can, that line there, the edge isn't correct. And it's, look, it doesn't even go the same distance. This is what I mean, you know, like when I did this design, I'd only just started coming to grips with all this stuff. So, yeah, anyway. But you notice the roof is the reverse. It's black and red stripes versus red with the black stripes. And those black pillars, the reason that I ended up doing the pillars was because I just couldn't get the pattern to match correctly. And so I went like, you know what, I can't do it. I'll just improvise and I'll make the pillars black. So that's why they're black. Look, I think the effect is actually quite good. I'm glad I did it, to be honest. But yeah, a lot of work. Alright. And that, my friends, is the end of this broadcast. I hope what I have shared was of some entertainment, was of some value. Please leave comments, let me know, as I've said earlier, and please subscribe if you can. I'd like to get subscribers happening. You know, more the merrier. And in some of the Minecraft stuff, there's some fairly complex pieces. There's a massive castle that would take a long time to take you through as a tour, but if you subscribe, I'm happy to do it. Probably take 35 to 40 minutes to give you the whole tour. It's that complicated and big, but I think you'll find it interesting. Anyway, it's been fun. Thanks very much for watching, and this is Iflowboy saying goodbye, and don't forget to jump back in about 15-20 minutes, and I will be doing a campaign race, and I will take you through how you do that race to try and help you acquire more credits in the game for you to buy cars. Oh, I did mention that I'd show you how much money I have, so you can see up the top there, right there, $1.47 million. I was 0 3 days ago, and I've probably competed in 25 or 30 races, and that's all the prize money I've accumulated. The prize money in this game is nowhere near like it used to be in Gran Turismo 6. So it takes a long time to build 20 million in this game. So my tips on my next broadcast, which will be in 20 minutes, will be worthwhile listening to. So please jump in. Until then, it's been fantastic, I hope. I've certainly enjoyed sharing the knowledge with you. So take care, and we'll see you next time. This is Iflowboy saying goodbye.